Welcome, everyone. This is the second in our conversational series, and I'm here with my friend Heather.
I'm so excited to be your second guest. Look how beautiful this fire is.
Yes, it's
For people
lovely.
that are only listening,
Now
they're
you're
really
blocking.
missing out.
This is a real fire. It's not an AI fire, and this is a real room. It's not an AI room.
And we are real ladies.
Who actually know each other in real life. And so this podcast series is one where I ask friends and acquaintances, when did you first see through the matrix, see through the pattern, see what's going on, see the edges of the narrative? And Heather and I met through a transmission line.
Yes. Yes, we did, which seems like a very weird way
Yes.
to meet someone.
Yes. So answer, please, go ahead.
Okay, well, I think first of all, we have to check on kind of like what are our definitions? Like, what do we mean by matrix?
Oh, please, go ahead.
Because are we talking like game A, game B, playing the finite game versus the infinite game? Because if what you mean by seeing through the matrix is playing game B, then I would say, hooray, yes, I'm already playing game B. And I think I naturally attract other players.
So for everyone else, will you explain finite and infinite game?
Well, I would say game A is like the socioeconomic game we're currently playing, where economics is the study of scarcity in humans, and where resources are proclaimed to be limited, and there's haves and have-nots, and there's calcified ideas about what you can have and can't have, like I shouldn't be allowed to have an outhouse. We're supposed to be obligated to, poop in clean water. That's part of our social contract, I guess. And then there's game B, which is more like emergent properties, like the way the beehive makes hexagons. We don't even know what we'll make, but if we keep showing up engaged and relational with nature and with what's actually emerging relationally with each other, both the human and more than human world, then we're playing an infinite game, because then there's no end to what will emerge. And that's more aligned with my Zen Buddhist thinking and more aligned with just my desire to live a life that has that leaves a net benefit rather than a net trash bags.
Okay, so where does the phrase infinite and finite game come from?
Well, just thinking game A and game B are is this trope that I think was going around for a while, and it really captured me because in a way it's not as loaded as the idea of the Matrix and the movie and images of Keanu Reeves, as pleasant as they are.
I know.
Like red pill, blue pill, black pill, whatever. To me, game A and game B don't have as much political charge. They don't have as much cultural charge. They're more neutral.
Yeah.
And so I kind of prefer that framing to a certain extent.
So when did you start to notice it?
I would say when I was in first grade in CCD class, and they told me that my dog wouldn't go to heaven. That somehow we were all God's children, and yet heaven was just for people. And I was like, so far my experience of people is not that they should be the only ones in heaven. So make it make sense, Sister Carmen. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sister Joseph, Sister Carmen, your narrative is not tracking.
Right.
And they were just like, oh, you're going to be really exhausting, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, probably. And I have been for the rest of my life, been utterly exhausting.
Okay, so after first grade, where did the realization lead you?
Well, then it was that I had really bad eczema as a child. And so I was getting drugs for the eczema. And that's what I was volunteering at the library in the summers when I was a kid. And then so I started to get into herbalism. Yeah. And because nothing was really working long term on my eczema, I started studying herbalism when I was 8 or 9.
Wow.
When I was working at the libraries, I got a book out on self-hypnosis.
Wow.
And herbalism. And I just started learning all these things because I could read when I was super, super young. Yeah. So I think I've just always sort of been in this weird, outsider perspective. Yeah. And then I was always kind of in public school, I was always kind of more skeptical and always kind of being that person, not wanting to be in the gifted program because I already saw where that track led socially. Do you know what I mean? Yes. So I was like, ooh, I don't think I want to go there. Yeah. I need to be able to fit in because I realize I'm already kind of seeing things in a weird way that people aren't relating to.
Well, so this is a real question I have, and I had a friend when I was in high school, when I was like 15 or 16, who I thought of as very normal. And he at one point told me how he thought he was super strange and weird. And that, for me, was like, oh, everyone must think that they're strange and weird. And so how do we really know if we're...
I think time bears it out.
Oh, yeah. You want to describe your lifestyle choices?
I mean, my lifestyle now is, like, to me, the ultimate riches is an open day where I get to do my creative projects or I get to plant 400 bulbs, or that's, to me, like the ultimate lifestyle.
Right.
And so I live in an off-grid tiny house in Maine, and for me, I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
My dream wouldn't be everyone else's dream. Like, my parents came to visit and my dad just said simply, this is not for me. and I understand that an outhouse can be terrifying.
It's just terrifying.
But for me, like, one of the things I love about the outhouse is like, okay, so how do I get the engine of composting to be consistently 160 degrees so I can still wash up in the outhouse in winter and keep the water liquid? And then how do I then, like, compost human manure so that I can safely use it on fruit trees, so that I am wasting absolutely nothing. That everything is a treasure.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, nothing is unwelcome.
Yeah. So it's very much like I struggle with this because we have more of a conventional lifestyle than you've chosen.
Right.
And, you have dogs too, but I have a dog and a husband. And we are navigating that. How do we live more simply, but also participate as fully as we can in the world? And that, because we're in rural places, involves driving a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I severed from any desire to pass. I'm like, here's the freak flag. Behold my freak flag.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I understand you have a more delicate dance to be doing. For me, it's like keeping my Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah.
And driving around in that and just like putting studded tires on it in the winter because I have the most minimal impact with that. And frankly, I haven't, maybe twice I've had something that I couldn't haul myself and I just paid somebody $100 to haul it for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It actually, sometimes we create problems that don't actually exist. Well, I should say mostly. Probably that is the primary problem with the human race, greed and creating problems that don't actually exist. So for me, it's like, it's not been hard because I kind of love the puzzle of it.
Yeah.
Although, when we tried to record this at my house, there was 3 cloudy days. And so I'm sorry, I have no Starlink.
Exactly.
There's no internet because it's been cloudy for 3 days.
Yes.
So I'm SOL, which does make it hard with like coaching and stuff to be able to set appointments and things like that. So I am now transitioning into a more energy stable kind of situation where I'm going to have a porch and more solar panels and be able to actually use the batteries that I bought. Right.
And so this little building that we're in is off grid and has no electricity in the walls, but there's a battery there.
Right.
And so I spent a lot of time this morning, because it's cloudy, figuring out how things were going to work and how we were going to get enough light on us.
And I think that's like something that people bring up for me, like, God, your lifestyle is so labor intensive. Like when I heard the rain on the roof last night, I didn't check the weather forecast before I fell asleep. I heard the rain on the roof at midnight. I have to get up, cover the wood pile.
Right.
In the rain
but
by myself.
At some point you'll have a woodshed.
Right. At some point.
Yeah. It's just
going
to come
out
after
of things.
the porch.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, if I want to have my coffee in the morning, I can either do my camp stove with the propane, which is usually my cheat.
Yeah.
My speed coffee cheat.
Because it takes like an hour to
or
make a fire
otherwise,
warm
I
enough.
have to, exactly.
Yep.
And then once I get it going, because my house is only 240 square feet, I have all the windows open. We're all like frolicking. People come to the door and it's like, oh, wait, hang on, let me get dressed because it's like 95 degrees in my house. But it's kind of fun in the snow, to roll around out there and bake some cakes. And because once the stove is going, you might as well bake.
Yeah, I know. It's the best thing about wood cook stoves.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so on to
Oh, evil? Are we going to talk about evil?
We were going to talk about moral relativism.
Oh,
because
great.
you said, we obviously pre-discussed these questions, and you had said something about moral relativism when we talked last week, which I thought was interesting to dig into. And I'm wondering when you started thinking about that and what the events were.
I think my baseline was moral relativism.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that I think it's like, that's the story of the Zen farmer.
Yes. You might as well tell it.
And I think this is like
other people so they know.
I think no matter how complicated what I think in my point of view gets, sometimes it all comes back to this story.
Yeah.
So a horse runs onto a farmer's land and all the neighbors are like, oh my God, you're so lucky. Look at that horse you got for free. Yeah. And he's like, who can say what's good and what's bad? And then the horse kicks his son in the leg and breaks his leg. And the neighbors are like, oh, what misfortune. You're so unfortunate that your son has a broken leg. And the farmer says, who can say what's good and what's bad? And then the army comes through and they don't take the son because he has a broken leg. And the neighbors are like, oh, you're so fortunate. And he says, oh, who can say what's good and what's bad? You get the idea. So like, when it comes to thinking of like good and evil, like, I'm like, well, it depends on where you're standing. It depends on the position of the observer to determine what's good or what's bad. And it's like, how attached are you to outcome? How attached are you to your own preferences? How attached are you to your own suffering?
Okay.
Because the more attached you are to a preference, the more suffering you're going to do. So it's like, is there really a moral high ground that is consistent through cultures and through moods and over time?
And you maintained this?
No.
Oh.
No. I would say 2020 was a bit of a turning point for me.
Okay. What happened in 2020?
Well, I think when COVID started and I bought my land, I started to see more writing and I got sober. I had been sober for how long by 2020? I got sober March 4th of 2017 or 18. I've been sober for 7 years now, so I forget.
I mean, so that would make it 19. Or,
yeah, so
18,
I think I was just starting to, my old conditioning, my trauma conditioning was falling away.
Yeah.
And so I think that just started to change my point of view significantly. And though I still think, like, who can say what's good and what's bad? I stand by that. However, I think in terms of like egregores and in terms of malevolent emergent properties of the system.
Yep.
I was very young when I read Rupert Sheldrake's work for the first time. And the idea of morphic fields totally resonated with me as like a teenager. I was like, yes, this totally makes sense. And so you can't be so Pollyanna-ish to think that the only thing that's going to emerge from those morphic fields are going to be always beneficial.
Right.
And so I think we have just like landed in a place culturally, especially in America, where what the emergent properties are sometimes evil.
Right.
And that we do have a responsibility once we see that to stand against it.
Okay, so how do you understand egregore and morphic field?
I feel like morphic fields are like sort of how it's this getting back to the same idea of like biological emergence.
Yeah.
It's like what happens in a mycorrhizal web in a forest, what happens in the wood wide web. We have similar energetics that we don't necessarily see, but that doesn't limit the emergent properties, the mimetic cultural emergent properties or.
That makes sense.
And so I feel like egregores are one of those mimetic emergent properties that comes from morphic fields.
Yeah, that's a nice way to state it because it sounds so scientific.
Well, it's
That's a joke.
but it feels like non-judgmental. Do you know what I mean? Like, because we're all contributing to all of it.
Yeah.
I'm not free of evil.
Right.
Do you think
Exactly.
Schadenfreude is my greatest spiritual weakness? Are you kidding me? The flavor of Schadenfreude literally makes my mouth water.
Yes. Right.
Like there are certain people, like watching them collapse would bring me nothing but pure, unadulterated joy.
Right.
Like I would dance on their graves.
And
I still have people like that in my world.
And yet you recognize that, like the whole thing, that schadenfreude.
I recognize that that's expensive.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it. It's expensive. You're going to pay for it.
Exactly. Like complaining.
Yeah.
Schadenfreude is expensive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I have enough in the bank for that.
Literally?
Oh, for certain people? Absolutely. I'm willing to pay.
Yeah.
I'm willing to pay the bridge, the guardian on the threshold little troll for that to happen.
And so that analogy also makes me think of because we've talked about this in other times, your take on hallucinogenic drugs as a spiritual portal.
You know what? I was actually just this morning, I was listening to the latest episode of the telepathy tapes.
Oh, really?
And it's about hallucinogens.
Oh, wow.
And they have like Paul Stamets on and okay, because then we have Paul Stamets. We've already brought up.
I don't know who that is.
He is a very famous mycologist.
Okay.
Who has done a lot toward the adoption of microdosing psilocybin and overall social acceptance of psilocybin. Yeah. And then we have Rupert Sheldrake, and then we have his son, which one is it? Is it Cosmo, I think, Sheldrake, who wrote the book Entangled Life, which is all about like the Wood Wide Web and essentially like the forest version of Game B.
Yeah.
So there are like plenty of examples right in front of our face of how to do this if we are willing to be in relationship with that. Do you know what I mean? Like when you hear about like Japanese forest bathing, oh, this is some kind of remedy. Well, I just made it a lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that whole thing about, I experience this very significantly. I'm sure you do too. You go into cities more than I do. I haven't been in a big city since 2020. And I know you've traveled to big cities, right?
I have.
Yes. But it's almost like impossible for me to think in a city anymore.
You know, I had a friend who posted something recently because she lives in a city.
Yeah.
And she was saying, yeah, people rag on cities, but culture emerges from cities. And I was like,
yeah, right.
I was like, she's not wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's not like a Waldo County, Maine Museum of Art that people are coming from far and wide to come and see
Yeah, but there's a long history of artists and thinkers leaving the city to do their work. And cities 50 years ago did not have the Wi-Fi signals and other signals that they have now.
Right.
Like, not here, but in our little neighborhood in New Hampshire, it's a 2-acre lots neighborhood, and I can see 20 Wi-Fi signals. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of electromagnetic and morphic fields.
Yeah.
How do you dream with all that interference?
Right. And so this is something I actually was talking with a friend about this week, because we got to Maine and I slept the clearest, like most perfectly I've slept in months. And I would like to bring it back and be able to recreate that, but it's so difficult. Because it requires, I mean, either a really amazing meditative practice, which I don't have, or physical changes to the bedroom, which is like ridiculous.
Yeah. Isn't it wild that we have a culture that is almost entirely designed to sever us from trust in what we can't see?
Yeah. And so again, it's like, it is convenience. In New Hampshire, where we live, most of the time, I can now order something and receive it overnight for free. This doesn't work out here in rural Maine. It's like
still
Amazon
2 weeks.
Prime.
It's still 2
5
weeks
days
for
to 2 weeks. Yeah. But just going like that much closer to a city of 10,000 people, and you can order stuff overnight.
Well, but look, now they want to cut down the forest and put an Amazon warehouse right outside of Presque Isle in the county. And so, so we will.
Are you serious?
Oh, absolutely. It's
Who
already
would they
passed.
deliver to there?
They're going to deliver to all of Maine, I guess.
Or Canada?
I don't think it's really close enough to anything in New Brunswick to.
Oh, have you looked at the aerial imagery of the border?
No.
It's fascinating. Go look at the aerial imagery of the
I've
Maine,
driven
New
it.
Hampshire border sometime,
Yeah.
and it's like, especially the upper left corner of Maine is all woods, and then you look at the Canadian border, and it's all houses and farms.
Right.
Because they pressed right up against the border. Because it's south, of course, it's warmer, so it's not.
Right.
It's not like I want to be near America. It's that it's warmer down south.
Right. And for Americans, that's like
Very cold and remote.
like some people don't even know Maine is in the United States.
Yeah. It's funny. I have a lot of friends, of course, now who are from away, from not Maine, and my husband included. But I grew up here, and so I never, and everyone in my family grew up here, so I never saw it in any kind of objective way, which is, to me, it was just always like kind of boring, and people wear a lot of plaid.
Yes. We can talk about the sartorial
women,
issues.
Yeah, women don't dress up.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I'm wearing a lot of makeup right now.
Yes, I'm not wearing unisex clothing.
Yeah,
And yet it's November in Maine. So.
right. Okay, so now let's talk about good and evil. Like,
Okay, wait.
So,
did we finish the last thing?
well, moral relativism, good and evil.
Okay,
like,
so moral relativism
2020
does not
what?
fundamental. Well, even in 2020, I was
Yeah.
still like, you know what? People are doing the best they can with the information they have.
Yeah. Okay. And so that's so tolerant, and I love tolerance. And yet,
Well, why would I give myself the stress of assuming malevolent motives on anyone's part?
I don't think anyone has malevolent motives. Or I think 99.9% of people do not have good motives. And the road to hell
I think that number is a little high.
is paved with good motives.
Ergo, my love of Schadenfreude.
No, I truly think it's like at most one out of 1,000 people who would have a bad motive.
That's enough, though.
That's enough. Okay.
That's enough for the egregore to thrive.
It is because most of the people who have good motives and are not really interested in doing anything, that's the other component of this question.
Yes.
Are just, want to live their lives and take care of their kids. And so they're willing to suffer a lot of infringement on their personal freedoms and privacy, et cetera, in order to live their life, have electricity, take care of their kids.
Right. The greatest harms to humanity have been done in the name of the greatest good.
Yes. And so you've come to that conclusion.
Yes.
And had you come to that conclusion prior to 2020?
No, not really. No, not
Yeah.
really. It wasn't until I think it was when I got that second shot, because I fully was like, yeah, we need to do this for public health. Like,
Yeah.
I was a little bit.
Because you were an herbalist, so you had some.
Well, and I also, my earliest childhood memory is a vaccine reaction.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I hallucinated to, I don't know which one of the vaccines. And I thought there were bugs all over
Yeah.
my mother, bugs all over my room. I hallucinated, had fevers.
Do you remember how old you were?
I was about 2.
Oh, my
2 or
goodness.
3. It's like my earliest memory.
Wow. And so that would have been in the mid 70s.
That would have been like 76, 77.
Right. Because both of us only received like the 8 shots that people got
Right.
before the 1986 law was
So I got
changed.
one of those combo shots and I had a truly awful
Yeah.
reaction to it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I've never been like a flu shot person or
Right.
anything like that. But like when I traveled to Africa, I went and got
Right.
all my shots and got when I went to Southeast Asia, I got my Japanese encephalitis. And, I did all that. But I never, ever, ever got as sick as I did from that second shot.
God, that's crazy.
I was so sick.
Wow.
And I ultimately ended up getting it because I work from home. There was really no reason. Nobody was pressuring me to get it except the guy I was dating said I had to get it if I wanted to meet his parents.
So many people got pressured by a romantic partner.
Yes.
Or spouse. And it's sad.
And I was like, ugh. It's like, well, I mean, how often do you find a guy willing to like
Live off grid?
No, he wasn't really willing to do that, but he was willing to kayak from like Port Clyde to Thomaston.
Wow.
And rare is the man who's there down with like that level of kayaking. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
The man enjoyed making sweet love in a lake. Do you know what I mean? It's not every day.
This is where my like prude comes out.
He was a registered Maine guide. We were caper buddies whose relationship did not last into the winter.
Of winter of 2020.
Winter of
2021.
We started dating. I had to put my dog down in 2021, and so then I thought maybe I should start dating again now that I'm not taking care of a dog with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So I met him in like March of 2021, and then we dated that whole summer, but then he was also the kind of guy who was like wearing a mask at the farmer's market outdoors, and I just kind of rolled my eyes, and I was like, look, I was like, too far.
Yeah.
I was like, nope, too far.
Yeah.
You know?
So when you got that sick, what did you decide or think after that?
Well, I decided the fact that he went home, even though he worked from home, made me think, oh, I've perhaps made a terrible choice here. I felt like, oh, this is not medicine.
Yeah.
There's no way what has just been put in me is anything like medicine. But because I was allergic to antibiotics as a child too, I have a really healthy gut biome. Mm-hmm. So I really trust myself to be able to know what's mine and what's not, because I also had exercise-induced anaphylaxis in my 20s.
Oh, really? Huh.
So I had a lot of autoimmune between the eczema, all kinds of autoimmune related things, until I completely made sure I stopped taking the antibiotics that were causing more havoc to my system, really got proficient in herbalism. And that was from the last time I had an anaphylactic reaction was when I was 27.
Wow.
So that's been, almost 25 years now. So I've really not had any kind of dental work. I've not had any kind of antibiotics. I have really been like, no, thank you. Your paradigm is not for me.
Right.
For really, I would say the last 25 years, doing a lot of traveling, went to like West Africa to see like, how are people living here? What is this idea of poverty? What is this idea of scarcity? What are these narratives that I've been told to believe about different places, different people? I want to go see firsthand and feel them.
Yeah.
And then make my own determination.
Did you ever have the experience of living with someone, and I think you did, who had a lot of desire for money and desire for material goods?
Dear God, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I was engaged to one of those for a while. Yeah.
Right. And when you were experiencing that kind of, a more luxurious, like let's call it that, more luxurious in quotes lifestyle.
I was at my most miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was living with a sociopath.
Well,
who was abusive.
Yeah. So that we can't decide if it was the luxury or the sociopath.
Right, but however, that was my time with a peek into what Silicon Valley world. Yeah. And so the fact that those are the people that are running our culture now is incredibly terrifying to me.
Right.
Because what is that? What is that in Steiner's terms? The Ahrimanic forces are basically putting their
inspiration in those people.
Putting their inspiration around those people and allowing them to put their tentacles around the throats of an entire culture. Yeah. Yeah. And yet none of that would happen if people like us were more aware of good boundaries with technology. And, during 2020, I read this book that made me be like, I'm not going to interact with technology at all. And so really for about 3 years, I used the internet only for very limited ways for work. I didn't do any video. I didn't do any social media. I didn't do social media for about 4.5 years. And then I have come back to it, obviously, where I've decided that I've met so many important friends over the past 5 years through the internet that there is, like, people I now hang out with. I didn't meet you through the internet, but I met a lot of other people through the internet. And I've decided that there is a way to connect with really important people for me karmically through being out there. I think it's like market forces. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like we've never actually lived in a free market, and we've actually also never had a free internet. We did very early on. Right. When it was not that interesting. Right. Yeah. So it's like, it's not the tool itself, but how it's being guardrailed. Yeah. Like I used ChatGPT to do some legal work earlier this year. Yes. And then recently, now that there's a ChatGPT 5.1, I got on there this week to try and follow up on another legal matter.
Yeah.
And the guardrails that they're now establishing are way stricter.
How are they different?
So it's getting more and more constrained around giving legal advice.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So that's much less useful.
Oh, it's much less useful. So who is using it?
Are you still paying?
No.
Do you think it would be different?
That's not why. No,
Okay.
it's the guardrails on ChatGPT 5.1. They're like, we can't give legal advice. I was like, well, we were working together in the spring when ChatGPT 4.
Yeah.
You know?
And can you switch it back to ChatGPT 4 and use that?
I didn't look for that. I was more interested in finding how could I still get the same results.
Right.
Because I was also looking to publish a semi-political document, and it wouldn't let me do that either. So I had to find a workaround to get around the guardrails because I guess. And so I asked ChatGPT, I was like, why are you no longer allowed to tell me this? Or why are you giving me now all these waivers and disclaimers before you give this response? And they basically said, well, because lawyers were concerned that, and I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I have thought about this because, after kind of hearing about what you were doing and thinking about the fact that with these chats, we can do pro se legal in a different way. I have wondered what would happen to the legal system when they would push back. Because, of course, the other thing that's very clear to us that the bar has control over who can be a lawyer, which means they have control over who can bring cases on behalf of others. But you can always do pro se on your own behalf.
Right. And it also means that the checks and balances aren't real.
Right. I know.
If you have one group one group ideology controlling one of the three branches, like then you're not really, you no longer have three branches.
and so I do wonder, back when those three branches were established, there probably, was there a bar association? Like, that's an interesting thing to research.
I'm fascinated by the history of the Bar Association because I didn't realize they were not like an elected body. They're just like a professional association who determines really the inflow and stream entry of an entire arm of government.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It is. And I mean, we've seen the parallel in the medical associations.
Right,
and
exactly.
medical boards, where there are these professional boards in many sectors, but some very important sectors where politics are allowed to influence what happens.
And there's no transparency.
Right.
Because it's considered a professional association.
And no election.
Right.
Yeah. So this is the thing that I keep wondering about is really, we have this essentially country where it ends up 50-50 almost every time, or 48-50, 49-51 every election cycle. And so Congress is split that way every election cycle. And yet I think most of this is because of the propaganda we experience, because I don't think people actually want that. I think most people would like privacy.
Yeah.
And as well as they'd like the freedoms that we think we have.
And in rural communities that we tend to still have.
Right.
That was another post that somebody put up this week that I saw, why are cities so reliably blue and rural areas so reliably red?
Right.
And I was like, well, I can tell you because I was blue in a city and more red in the rural area. Yeah. And I can say exactly why, because I now live in a community that's human scaled, where we take care of each other, and everybody in the community has skills that nobody would think to rely on the government to provide what we needed for each other.
Right, because you couldn't live in a rural place if you were relying on the government.
Absolutely not, right.
Infrastructure-wise, it wouldn't be possible.
It just wouldn't, it wouldn't be possible, and we wouldn't want it.
Right.
Like when I got sued this year and ended up in this whole, being attacked and written about in the press and all these shenanigans, when I was doxxed, my neighbors were like, what kind of guns do you need? And literally drove to my house and dropped off. And I was like, I love these people. And one of my dear friends, the first time I met him, I was living in my yurt and I needed a driveway.
Yeah.
He comes up in an NRA t-shirt at the top of my hill, this big dude. And I'm just like, wow, I should be terrified of you according to 100% of my urban conditioning.
Right. Yeah.
And yet, no, like a great friend, he and his family are great friends of mine. So like, I just switched, you know, I mean, I was a Bernie voter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I still probably believe that healthcare is a human right, except for how we run healthcare is.
Except for that.
So,
and except for, you know, you
except
don't
for the
believe
fact
in the
that
medical system.
I would never want it,
Right.
even if it was universally available to me. I feel like it's done more harm than good to me
Yeah.
at any time I've relied on it in my life. So, and my feeling is if and I think like people are like, well, what if you got cancer? I was like, are you kidding me? Do you know how many wonderful plants there are to work against that? And meanwhile, I have a friend with an excavator who will dig a hole before I subject myself to a multi-billion-dollar cancer industrial complex. I don't
that
have
has
children.
very poor outcomes.
That has actually very poor outcomes that you can't even tell what other outcomes would be because of that interference. Mm-hmm. Just like energy subsidies.
Right.
Those market interferences are actually preventing any kind of actual clarity about what works.
Energy subsidies are the reason we know each other.
They are. And I am a person that lives off grid with a solar battery and one panel. And yet protecting farmland from solar arrays is a hill I will die on.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, it just makes me so sad to think of.
It makes me so sad because of how it's sold. And this is, again, like, how can people in cities be so blue and people in rural areas be so red? Because rural areas is where they're harvesting all your resources.
Yes.
And so we are the stewards to prevent that rape of land and forest, woods and waters. We're the ones here, boots on the ground, saying, guys, no, like you have to see what this is really costing.
Right. And in a place like Maine, it's really, really hard because, well, if you want to go make a pitch in Augusta about it, all these rural people live like an hour or more away, whereas people from Portland live only 40 minutes away, and it's reasonable for them to go there in a day. Yeah. And the politicians do this thing where you never know exactly when it's going to come up, and you might have to go 8 different times.
That's
and
crazy
sit for
how
6
they
hours.
schedule it.
Yeah,
it's crazy how they schedule it.
And it's supposed to be public access, but it really is. It appears that it's very difficult for the public to access, unless you're retired.
When I went to the work session for this affordable housing bill, I was literally at Sam's Club in Augusta. I'm off grid and I have a Sam's Club membership. I'm a woman. I'm very diverse inside. And I just happened to get an email that day was the work session. And so I was able to go and it was this affordable housing bill that was taking away local control over any kind of planning. And who do you think was in the room? All developers.
Yeah.
All developers.
Of course, because
I was literally the only
subsidy.
Exactly. It's a market subsidy for developers. Yeah. And who will ultimately benefit?
Right.
Nobody, because the only person that will benefit is the family that gets that subsidy for the duration of the subsidy. Mm-hmm. Because as soon as the subsidy ends, it goes back to market rate. And who fully benefits is the developer who gets paid a percentage of the total budget, so is totally de-incentivized from doing it in any kind of lean way.
Exactly.
So you could take those millions of dollars in subsidies and give them to actual people and do gentle infill in cities instead of these colossal developments that really benefit the developers. That's why there were developers in the room, because they want that percentage.
Right.
And now they want it to be able to put it wherever they want. Anywhere that they put centralized water and sewer, they can now have 5,000 square foot lots, no matter what the community has already decided.
Right. And just to rephrase that in a way that people outside of this context might understand.
That's a little inside baseball. LD 1829, look it up. But because it's happening everywhere too. This is not just Maine.
Right. So in rural Maine, communities with extremely limited municipal resources, meaning often there aren't
legal
even
resources.
And often there's not a paid person working there, or there's very few paid people working there. Right. They don't have the ability to organize and respond to these things efficiently at all, and often don't understand what to do. And the question is, in places like rural Maine, where there's been a long history of the minimum lot size being an acre or
2
2 acres.
We're 2 acres where I live, yeah.
And that's been allowed, and towns could make it bigger if they wanted. Now it could be 5,000 square feet, and a lot, 1 acre is 44,000 square feet. So it's a big difference. And
It's a big payday for a developer.
and all that is required is centralized water and sewer, which is not public water and sewer, which is the nuance that
Seems to be, a lot of people seem to be missing that. I've corrected so many people on that. I was like, that's not what the bill says.
and if a rural town needed to respond to that, they would be forced to somehow regulate the developer in putting in a high enough quality centralized water and sewer that it wouldn't impact the rest of the town. And I don't think anyone knows how to do that correctly, or few people do.
Certainly not our plumbing inspector.
Right.
You know?
Because this is not a common thing. Like, we don't have experience in how you would do that.
No.
Right.
So these issues like green energy, affordable housing, things that of course.
You live off grid in a tiny house.
I solved my affordable housing problem.
Yes.
I solved my sustainable energy problem.
Yes.
And in fact, the way I solved both of those problems would be illegal in most cities.
And in some states.
Right. I couldn't live the way I do in Massachusetts.
It would be illegal in any town, I think, in Maine that has a public water system.
Probably.
Yeah. Because you are required to hook up to it.
So what does that say?
Right. Well, and the response from, I can fully imagine the response from any of our legislators, which are your legislators now, which is, well, most people don't want to or can't live like you because they need to have electricity to be safe. And that's a real thing that people say. Like, some people need electricity to have a breathing apparatus.
If I had children, they would be taken away from me for the way I live.
Right. Yes, there you go. Yeah. So there's so that pressure.
They would be they would be removed from my care.
Yeah.
Because I haul in water.
Yeah.
I mean, when you erode people's sovereignty so fundamentally, who's it going to?
Right.
Whose is it now?
Right.
So, okay, so you can't just make your own tiny house on your own piece of land with an outhouse and a well.
Yeah.
You now have to be in the apartment where you shit and clean water, and you have,
if you have children. If you have,
but it's such a widely accepted social norm that you're out of contact even with like your own body.
Right.
You're out of contact, you're out of relationship with your own body's processes. You're out of contact with the dirt on the ground.
Right.
You're out of right relationship with the entire ecosystem of which you are a part.
Yeah. And so the other, devil's advocate argument would be, there are too many people in this country to be able to live for them all to be able to live the way you do.
Well, why don't we try that? Why don't we get some real numbers on that?
Yeah. And so the other interesting thing, of course, in Maine is we have Amish communities. And I know one person who actually came from being like us, meaning not Amish, which is called English in the Amish world, came from being like us to becoming Amish. And if you become Amish and actually join that community, it appears that you can do things such as live without electricity and haul water and have children.
And raise plenty of children.
Right.
They're real big reproducers.
And so there are ways to do it, but it requires setting yourself into this religious
no, it doesn't.
framework. Well,
to be socially acceptable, you mean?
Yeah, to not have your children taken from you. You have to set yourself in this religious framework, which is a community, which provides some level of, psychosocial protection, and makes it very clear that this is a religious choice, like, don't go near it.
Right. Freedom, it's hidden behind freedom of religion.
Yeah.
Well, can my freedom of religion be I'm a green witch, and therefore...
And I suspect that wouldn't work if you actually were faced with something.
Well, should anyone come out after my outhouse,
Yeah.
I will go with Maine's food sovereignty,
Yeah.
constitutional amendment, and say that I am a closed system.
Yeah. That's a good.
This is a restorative agricultural closed system where nothing goes to waste.
Right. Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah, that would be my legal defense. That's the direction I would go in if they tried to come after me.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Because it's true.
Right.
Like I bring forward
Yep.
what's composting, and then it gets moved over to another composter for a year,
Yeah.
and then it goes on the fruit trees.
Right.
So like absolutely nothing is wasted. I use Castile soap, so my gray water
Yeah.
is totally not dangerous at all, and that goes in the garden.
Yeah.
I have 2 dogs, which lick everything clean before I soak it in baking soda and wash
yeah.
it, so it's like, there's not like a bunch of, food crusty scraps going in my gray water. So yeah, I'm a very self-contained system, and doing that, like, there is something that just shifts in your overall point of view when you are in right relationship with your own shit in a literal and metaphorical way.
Right. Right.
Like, I do not turn away from my own shit on any level.
Yeah. And the metaphor there is also very important, which is recognizing. I mean, I was thinking about that this morning, like being able to recognize our own hindrances, our own lower self. That's like step 1 for objective living.
It is. And then sometimes I have some issues with this sort of linear declination of lower and higher self.
Tell me about it.
Because I feel like they are integrated. I think the body gets a real bad rap. I think desire gets a real bad rap. I think these things are so fundamentally part of the ecology of erotic emergence, like this liberation of being fully alive in these bodies. Like, they're not just suffer vessels, they're also pleasure vessels and joy vessels. And if we're in right relationship with the world, like, it's freaking great to be a person.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know that I'm not critiquing the body. It's like, I'm talking about lower self as in the selfish.
Yeah, but I even think there's a difference between selfish and self-centered. Like, I do not think I am the center of the universe. But part of me knowing what the next right thing is guided by what feels good.
And so that's what, I mean, these are semantics, but self-integration is what, in order to know what feels good, so first of all, you're already sober. You've reached a point where what feels good is not
it's not purely hedonistic.
Yeah, right. Right. And that, for many people, that takes a long time to come to that awareness that what feels good is not 8 cups of coffee a day or 8 drinks a day or whatever,
Like, service feels good to me.
Right. Yeah.
Like, every day I try to do something for somebody else.
Oh, that's nice.
Every day.
Yeah. What kind of things?
Well, like, I don't know. Monday I went to take my neighbor to Sam's Club and out for Chinese buffet.
Oh, that's sweet.
And just had a nice time with her because she doesn't get out very much. And then yesterday, just like taking a waxed amaryllis bulb to my other neighbors to thank, I don't know. I just try to, if every day that there's some way that I can pay it forward every day, like, that brings sustainable joy to me.
Yeah.
And that knits my community together.
Yeah. Yeah. So the community thing is also, like, in rural places, it's possible to have this sense of community, which I don't think it's possible in a city.
I have a busier social life in a town of 740 people than I ever had in cities of 1 million plus.
Yeah. And so right now we're in a town of 1,500 people. We're half an hour from a health food store, put it that way. Half an hour at 60 miles an hour from a health food store. And every time I come here, I'm like, oh my God, it's nonstop social hour here, from like coffee in the morning.
It is.
Till dinner in the evening. And usually there's a social event in the middle.
It is.
And it's almost like I can't get any work done here.
No, I know. My parents were like, are you going to be alone for the holidays? I was like, dude, I have like 5 invitations for each holiday.
Yeah.
I had to turn people away. I had to go with the first taker back like 2 months ago. Like, know, I have no shortage of like
Right.
people who love me, and I'm enmeshed in a web of healthy relationships everywhere I turn.
Yeah.
And that is like the and like, that's what I mean. Like, why would I want the government, like a faceless, nameless governmental entity, to be my safety net when living, breathing people that I look in the eye are my safety net? We are each other's safety net.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why rural places are blue and cities
Other way.
rural places are red and and cities are blue.
But you still have close friends who live in cities, right?
I do.
And so
and
how do
they're
you
like,
talk to
what happened to you? And I was like, oh, I learned how to do stuff, like real stuff.
Yeah.
I do real stuff.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
And I drove here from California in a Volkswagen Beetle. Like, that is not far away from me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I know what it feels like to see the world with those eyes, and I can easily put those glasses on.
Yeah.
So it's not, it's not far away. And I feel like they are far more reluctant to hear my new point of view,
Right.
than I am to continue to support and validate their worldview.
And so much of that, I think, has to do with the essentially academic pretension or elitism, which I've experienced my whole life. Like, I don't have a college degree. I don't even have a high school degree. And yet people always assume that I'm highly educated.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that kind of,
And so they talk to me like I have very
and like you will share their urban point
Yes,
of view.
yes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And I guess that's why, like, I mostly hang out with a lot of rednecks.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And what you have found is they're not stupid, right?
No, not at all. Like,
I know.
I would sit there and cry trying to do some of the things that they do.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's the thing about a community.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's got their something.
Right.
Like, I have a certain role where I can really help out with writing things, and I can help out with, this person sending you a threatening legal letter. Let's break it down and see what this really is, and we'll draft something back for that, like to shut them the F up.
Yeah.
Like. But when I was out of wood, or my wood wasn't fully cured yet, then somebody brought me a whole load of wood.
Yeah.
In 48 hours from me asking.
Is this last week?
Yeah, this is just last week.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big deal.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't have the money yet for my driveway, and my driveway guy was like, look, I've already got the excavator over here. Let me just get started on this.
Yeah.
And when you get your money, we'll come back and finish it with the gravel. And I was like, are you?
Yeah.
He did not know me from Adam.
Yeah. And so that's the trust that also comes with this rural community, where you're like, I mean, this is a dead end road, but we see every car that drives down, and our neighbors are all looking too. And everyone's like, you think you're invisible out in the wilderness? No.
No, when I was living in a tent, people knew. I know. I was the tent lady.
Yeah.
So, I was the crazy tent lady. But nobody was going to let me die.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nobody was going to let me die. When we had that big storm 2 years ago, like, one of the select board members came up the hill to make sure I was okay. Like, this is where I live now. So, like, I cannot sit and have my friends who are in blue cities say, those are deplorables, or those people are stupid, or they are maggots, or whatever. Like, no.
Yeah. And also,
you don't know these people. Like, I know this, you don't know. You're ignorant. Please claim your ignorance.
And this is this thing that, I've experienced for years, because whatever, it's a thing. If you talk a certain way and you present yourself a certain way, people assume that you agree with them in cities. And these people are so biased. I don't know if they'll ever see past their bias.
And really, because they don't know these folks, like, they're going off of the propaganda.
Right. It's like, oh, these are hillbillies, rednecks, Appalachian, Hicks, whatever. Right. Whatever the picture is that urban people have. Right.
Now, have I heard some of the most blisteringly racist things I've ever heard in my entire life come out of the mouths of my neighbors? Yes, I have.
Oh, dear.
Yes, I have. Yeah. And part of me was like, well, and when I was in West Africa, did I have a tent full of children who couldn't wait to touch my hair? Yes. Like, so part of me is like, is it just because you've literally never seen a black person? Like, or only when you go to Augusta, you've seen like one or two. Like, part of it, I think, is like, ignorance and a total lack of exposure.
And so it goes both
Not
ways.
to make excuses for anybody's bigotry, for sure. But like, it is partly like you just don't know. I mean, Maine is so insanely white.
I know
that it's like it's always a little startling to me how white and old Waldo County is. Like I'm always like, wow, this is the only context in which I would be considered young. Like this is, I mean, is that why I live here?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's wild.
It is.
Yeah. Even in New Hampshire, I see more families with children. Just it's like visible.
Yeah.
There's more families with children in rural New Hampshire than rural Maine.
Yeah.
And who knows? Well, I mean, we have ideas about why that is. I think the politics.
The schools are horrible.
Yep.
The politics are rough.
It's much more expensive to live in Maine.
Is it?
I think it's 15 to 20% more expensive. And that's just like going to the food co-op.
Really?
Yeah. I don't keep close track, but my experience since we're now in New Hampshire and shopping, daily in New Hampshire is every time I check out, I'm like, wow, this is about 20% less than I expected.
Oh, wow.
And part of it's the no sales tax, but part of it is I think everything's actually cheaper.
See, I don't really buy anything.
Sam's Club.
It's funny. Yeah. I go to, I bought like a 10-pound bag of pinto beans for $8 yesterday. Do you know, you know what I mean? And I think I bought my 20-pound bag of rice for like $22 at Sam's Club, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just keep filling my jar, keep that at the top of my my pantry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't, and I buy a big ham steak and then I put it in jars and I can it for, and I eat it for like 2 weeks, and like on $15. So it's like, I'm just, my approach is
very simple.
My approach is just different, but that's because like time is riches to me.
Yeah, I know. And it's so admirable because I agreed, like time is riches. And then I get incredibly busy and have like schedule all day long.
Right.
And it's very hard to go find a day.
Well, I think part when I was serving my town on the select board, like last year, I realized like how much time and research and vigilance it will take to protect our rural communities from our own legislatures.
Yeah.
And so it became even more important to me to be able to fulfill that role even once they got me out of office, like that I still want to keep an eye on policy and understand what's emerging policy-wise. Right. And also I got really clear on that I would never want to be an elected official again because like that actually prevents you from having the real impact. Yeah. Which is was a real revelation about how our system works.
Can you describe that revelation a little more?
I guess I just realized that when I, like, for example, even when I went to the work session for LD 1829, the Affordable Housing Bill, almost everything that really shifted that vote happened outside of public view. Yeah. It happened in the hallway. Yeah. It happened in the caucus. It happened in an unfoyable, like there was no Freedom of Access Act, Freedom of Information Act. There was no way for you to know how that decision was actually made and what manipulations happened and who did the manipulations. Because there's, for all the faux transparency, that's not where the decisions are actually made.
Yeah, that's the same thing we saw during the transmission line is if you are not physically in the offices, in the state house.
Or literally in the hallway or outside of the committee
and
rooms.
You can't go into the caucus rooms, obviously. No. So you can only like observe and guess what's happening there.
But you would get more just hanging out in the hallways in Augusta than you would being in any kind of official proceeding. Right.
And, what we saw, which is so kind of despicable, is what legislators responded to were crying people rather than data.
Right. I mean, one of the people on the Housing and Urban Development Committee didn't even know what home rule was.
Oh God, that's horrible.
I had to explain it to her.
That is terrible.
Yeah. Well, she was a rep from Waterville, so she was in a, it's not necessarily, I guess, as important to people who are in the more, I mean, not that Waterville is like a city, it's like, it's where Colby College is, and that's the whole like urban center of Waterville, but
I know,
does at least have some Indian food.
I know. I know.
There's that.
Yeah. Okay, so we've been talking probably over an hour, so let's...
Well, we can.
No. What I want to do is look
Are
at
we going to
this
do
list of-
multi-parts?
No, we're going to do one part. Okay. Do you think, once you started seeing the good and evil paradigm, do you think you felt a moral obligation to do something?
Yes,
Or do you,
absolutely.
And how did that...
For me, part of that was taking the Bodhisattva vows at a Zen center.
And you did that after 2020?
Yes, I did that in the fall, August of 2020.
Interesting. Okay, and so tell us about what that meant.
Well, I was already kind of on that path because I was in 12-step recovery, and I was like, ooh, this spirituality is not really as coherent for me as I'm going to need for sustained sobriety and how my worldview is emerging.
Meaning the 12-step recovery is not?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was a good jumping off point, but I needed something a little more coherent with how I was seeing the world and a little more ecologically oriented.
Yeah.
And so Zen Buddhism was that for me.
Yeah.
And so I was at a retreat for a month in January of 2020, right before. But actually somebody had come in who had been in Hong Kong.
Oh my goodness.
At the end of that retreat.
Oh my goodness.
So there was like some tipping of the hat to what was going on. And then when I came out and then I saw like on Telegram, there was lots of people being welded into apartments and all that kind of stuff. And so I had kind of pulled back from, AA meetings had kind of stopped. Right. And so like so then I just kind of continued on the Zen path. And
where were you? Were you in Maine?
I was in Maine already. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But the Zen Center was in Santa Fe in New Mexico. Yeah. And then I asked the teacher, the Zen master there, if I could take the precepts or if I could receive the precepts. You don't really take anything. They kind of just enter you. And so, then I started my studies for Jukai, and then I got my Dharma name and finished my Rakusu and took the vows in August of 2020.
And so how do you interpret those as in this context of moral obligation or moral process?
They even as my Zen practice has changed, those vows remain at the center of my life.
Which are, and what are they?
Oh, there's like a bunch of them. It's like do not kill, honor the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Yeah. Even those three fundamentals, those are the first three. And, those three, do not lie, do not take intoxicants, all these, they all have.
But you drink coffee.
Is that an intoxicant?
No, it's not.
I mean, I don't drink coffee always.
Really?
No. Often I drink tea in the morning.
It's not an intoxicant.
I mean, I guess it is kind of a drug, isn't it? I do still sometimes smoke too, but is that an intoxicant? I feel like that's
cigarettes?
more.
I don't.
Yeah, I do. Hand-rolled cigarette.
So I think the idea with intoxicant is you can get to the point where you wouldn't be able to drive well.
I mean, for me, being a recovering alcoholic, I got to tell you, my cup of coffee or a cigarette by the campfire does not feel like an intoxicant. That is done with an absolutely different place than my drinking used to be. Right. My drinking was a death wish personified. And, that was me actively pursuing a death wish.
How did you realize that it was a death wish?
Because I wanted to die. Oh. It wasn't vague.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. Yeah. Oh. No, there's so many and I guess that's why I relish the sort of ordinary joy that I've built my life around now, is because I've come close to not wanting to be here so many times. Yeah. And really, if I hadn't had my previous dog, I would not be alive.
Oh God. Dogs are amazing.
He definitely kept me
dogs
here.
Really do keep people through stuff.
Yep. Yeah. And he came into my life at exactly the start. I could not have known that I was entering a dark, dark, dark portal. Right.
You got him when you were writing your...
I got him...
shortly before
I got him the year before I met the psychopathic tech guy.
Yep.
I got him, and I met the psychopathic tech guy in October of that year. And then that was an odyssey that brought me to San Francisco and to a couple other places, and then really brought me absolutely to my knees.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then how'd you end up in Maine?
Well, it was the end of America, and I was running.
It is far away from San Francisco.
I was on the run. I was actually going to Cape Breton to drive the Cabot Trail in the fall.
I don't know where
It's in Nova Scotia.
Okay.
It's at the end of Nova Scotia. Cape Breton is at the end of Nova Scotia. And there's a gorgeous Cape Breton Highlands National Park there. And so I was like, well, I had driven across the country. I was like, I really would not like to live in California anymore.
Yeah.
And my niece had just been born, so I wanted to be somewhere on the East Coast. And I went all over the East Coast and then tried to reintegrate with my family, which was not very successful at that time, to put it mildly. So then my godmother, her boss, had a house in Belfast, Maine. And she said, well, on your way to Cape Breton, why don't you stay in his house?
Yeah.
It's just like a nice stop on the way. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. And I landed in Belfast, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I had in mind. I don't know if it just sang to my Irish DNA,
right. This other side of the former Atlantis.
Yeah, exactly. Like these rocky coasts and this misty air and these sailboats. And I was just like, oh, wow. Like I could just feel everything be like, oh. And it was at that time that I saw the sign that said Freedom 17. And I was like, ha, 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 ha. That's probably where I'll end up.
Yeah.
Cut to 8 years later.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That is where I ended up through like so many synchronicities,
Yeah.
But what does Goethe say at the moment? At the moment of commitment, the universe conspires to assist you, and I have found that to be true again and again and again, and that's what's allowed me to just trust.
Yeah.
If I'm here, I'm held.
Yeah. That's good. That's nice. What are you going to do next?
Well, I'm getting back to coaching. I literally had a Wi-Fi problem that stalled my coaching business for about 3 years, which was a worthy pause.
Yeah.
It also gave me a chance to get into local government and out of local government. And definitely gave me an opportunity to test my Zen practice.
Yes.
And to be able to write without sharing for a while and just really tend to myself, to build a house, to literally build a house, and to get everything that I needed to really establish home.
That's nice.
I'm like at home maybe for the first time in my life. And that is a whole, like that, I don't even know how that happened.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it could feel like.
Right. That is a really big deal for someone who
it's a really big deal. And I kind of adopted a dog for whom it's also a really big deal. Yeah. And so I'm writing 3 courses that are now going to form the initial crux of one-on-one work with me.
Yeah.
And so this trio of courses will be under like the Life 11 label, as opposed to me doing it personally, because I do feel like in some ways it's ultimately the one-on-one work with me will come after this, but this is not even necessarily mine, but this is about what I've learned from the multiple iterations that have been demanded of me.
Right.
And so I've gotten some knowledge from those demanded iterations that now I can share at a like reasonable price point and just have them out there for people to be able to do as they will.
What does Life 11 mean?
Life 11 is just kind of the umbrella that I'm putting this under. And in a way, it's like I love 11 as a master number in numerology. Cats have 9 lives, but I've probably had 11. And like, that whole thing, there are no second acts in American lives. I think F. Scott Fitzgerald said that, but I'm probably on act 11.
Oh, yeah.
And just this idea that like, there's always another layer. Mm-hmm. And when you see 1111, it feels
pretty,
like a magical.
It looks good. Yeah.
It feels kind of, it's 11 just feels kind of magical to me. And so,
that makes sense. And how do you want people to find you?
You can still look at my writings at rayhance.com. For a while, I used my Dharma name and my maternal grandmother's maiden name because of my whole Blair Witch history.
Right.
And difficulty using my own name without all that baggage attached to it. But now I'm just like,
Do you have a Substack or anything like that set up? Or you just, it find you through rayhance?
I don't. Come find me I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I'm probably going to go back on TikTok and do these little, like little bite-sized things that I feel like are just little raindrop-sized detonations that I enjoy making.
Tiny 10-second
just little
detonations.
Yep, raindrop detonations.
Yeah.
Kapow.
Kapow.
Ping.
Yep. Good. It's really nice to talk to you, and we can do this again. But I do think the battery could die at any moment, and so
I know. I feel like we could do this like forever.
Well, yeah. I mean, Heather will probably stay and talk with us for another 3 hours once the video goes off. Yeah.
Oh, but it's nice to kind of like get the worldview.
Yeah.
You know, we've never really done that.
No.
As in terms of like, how did we both get here? Have you done an episode where are you going to do an episode like with Daniel or something where we get to frame how you came to this point of view?
I mean, well, I didn't have like some specific moment. So Madhava, who I talked to recently, he was like October 2017, and I thought that was really interesting. And you also were able to say like these specific points. And for me, it's been much slower. I had the specific moment where I was like, oh, Steiner's work is the most important thing in my life, and that was when I was 22, and that was very specific. But other than that, I haven't had specific moments. But 2020 was a big deal for me. I was not happy about how things were going with general culture.
Yeah.
I didn't like mass.
I also just don't like, I was even passing a church on my way here that said, fear of God is primary. And I was like, if you're afraid, it's probably not God.
Yeah. This is an interesting thing, of course, is like these conceptions of what God or spirit or all of that. We can talk about that.
That'll be for another time.
Yeah. And actually it could be very interesting to talk about different ideas about reincarnation and karma.
Yeah,
from
like
these different
Steiner
backgrounds.
perspective, Zen perspective.
I would like to do that.
A gardener's perspective, which is probably my primary reincarnation perspective, actually. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, Heather.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. And thank you all. Let's press the end button.